Welcome. My name is Nancy Burrington. I'm the creator of Wellness Journey, Turning Your Challenges to Triumph. And I am so excited to have as my guest speaker today, Kimberly VanBuren. And she is the owner of, I'm going to get this right, okay? She is the owner of Balancing Act Life Management Services.
Yes, ma'am.
And so Kimberly is going to talk a little bit about some of those challenges that we have in trying to balance, okay? Get that seesaw effect and
That's right.
also in work. So Kimberly, if you could just kind of give us a little bit about yourself and then kind of talk to us about some of those challenges that people are faced with, especially nowadays, okay?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So thank you so much for having me, Miss Nancy. Like you said, my name is Kimberly, and I'm the owner of Balancing Act Life Management Services. And so what we do, we're a bunch of clinicians, and we psychotherapists. So we see people with a lot of different issues with anxiety, depression, and so forth. However, I noticed that so often people are struggling with work-life balance issues. And so I decided to develop a program more geared towards having better work-life balance because it is so difficult for us. Now with the pandemic, it's presented new challenges, but even before then, people are overscheduled. Their children are overscheduled, and there's just way too many things on their to-do list that is humanly possible to accomplish. And then it just leads on to the next day. And then we start feeling very unaccomplished and disheartened by the fact that we're unable to clear these to-do lists. So that is the purpose of what I do to help people out.
Well, I really appreciate you, mentioning it because dating myself, okay? I was in the military and my son he's 40 and I was a single parent during most of his younger life. And I'm looking at parents nowadays and it's like the kids got a soccer game, they got this game, they got this feat. I'm like, I don't know how they could do it. I really don't. So
You need a full-time driver for the kids.
right, right. And then with that, they cannot juggle doing self-care, doing things that's going to take care of themselves outside of that. And then I know a lot of my clients that I talk to, they feel guilty. So
Mhm.
if you could kind of talk a little bit about some of those challenges and how you help people to manipulate or orchestrate or manage those
Man,
things.
that's right.
Mhm.
We want to manage our work-life balance because very often, depending on what it is that you do, or even when you're talking about your home life with your children, it's not really considered work, if you will. This is just my life. So how can I say that I'm not going to deal with my kids or, in order to give myself time alone? However, there is a balance for everything that we have in our life. And so one of the main things that I focus on initially is to look at your schedule, right? Look at your to-do list overall and see what it is that you are trying to accomplish on the continuous basis. And then we kind of filter through that and see what is most important. What are some of the things that we could put on a wait list, right? And the wait list is managing what it is we have to do because very often we're constantly thinking about, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, and that builds anxiety in our body, right? And so it could be something as simple as I need to return this blouse, but if you keep thinking about it every day, then it becomes a thing like, oh my god, I need to return this blouse, I need to do this. And the truth is it's not that important. So being clear about what it is you have to do and prioritizing those things on the list, that's the first thing. And then we move on to, when you have that priority list, where are you on the priority list? Because you have to understand that if you don't take care of yourself, then none of the things are going to get done. Right. And so I always talk about sleep health, stress management, and time management. Those are the three components that make work-life balance possible. If you don't have those three, then you could count on being imbalanced.
And I find that very interesting because that's one of the things that I talk to my clients that comes in. I say, what is it about yourself? What, kind of look at this and that. And they kind of look at me like, oh, yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
me. Yeah, there's a me in there somewhere. But at the same time, and how do you address that when people are trying to do something for self-care? How to keep them from feeling selfish, or because you'll have some kids and some their partners will say, "You're just being selfish because you're not thinking about me." How can people get over that, or how can they take care of that guilt of having they had to do everything?
Well, guilt comes from the way you think about things. So, in order to change your guilty feelings, you have to have a cognitive shift, right? A reframe, if you will. So, it is really the way you think about things that causes the guilt. So, in order for you not to have guilt for taking care of yourself, you have to change the way that you are presenting that to yourself, if you will, your perspective on it. And so, in order for that to not be a guilty feeling, you have to consider it important. You have to consider it a priority. And throughout our experience, life will let you know what needs to be addressed if you're paying attention to it. So when you notice that you're, falling asleep during the day, or you're super tired, well, that lets you know I'm not getting enough rest. Or maybe I'm not eating the healthiest. I need to drink more water. I need to get more exercise. Or you find that you are snappy with people. You get a lot of feedback with people telling you, you've really been kind of irritable, or, your personality has been a little bit off. That lets you know, hey, something's going on. Right. And so we have all of these um, points in our life, all of this information that is given to us, but we choose not to pay attention to it. Even when you're talking about relationships with people, if your spouse or a friend, someone that spends a lot of time with you, says, hey, I'm feeling, like you said, they're saying like, oh, instead of saying you're selfish, they can say things like, we're not spending any time. And you have to have the good parts of your life too to manage, because you can't remove all of your stressors. So, in order to make it okay, you still have to do things that are fun to you. And that includes your friends, your family, your loved ones. And it's important to spend time with them as well.
Well, I love how you're putting all of that into perspective and putting them into like little areas for people to identify and to look at. But do you think one of the biggest problems that we're having with today's society, between the internet, the cell phone, where you're constantly on the phone, scheduling this, scheduling that, and do you find that the society where it's geared now, even to the point where I have people where they're having their boss calling them at all times of the hour, did you get this done? Did you get that done? So do you feel with society the way it is that that is the biggest problem that people are having with the work-life balancing and trying to get that balancing act evened?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Setting boundaries is very important. And we talk about that when we're talking about time management and stress management. Because when you're setting boundaries, you are finding a way to tell people no, right? And you have to be okay with it. So the whole process of getting to a better, healthier work-life balance starts from being able to manage your stress, and that includes setting boundaries, right? You're not going to allow your boss to call you after a certain time. You're going to let everyone in your life know, like, hey, after 7 o'clock or whatever time, I'm not going to be answering emails. I'm not going to answer business calls. And that comes again from the prioritization we were talking about, right? So when you're putting all of the things down that you need to do, obviously there's a lot of important work things that are going on. And that may be on your list, but also you know that your child is sick this week. And so some of the things are going to have to be pushed aside or moved around or managed. And you have to be flexible, right? We talk about being flexible when we're talking about stress management, because being very rigid is not going to help you. If you have this thought like, oh, this is how it's got to be, and then it doesn't happen, and you're just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So you have to be able to kind of roll with the punches and pivot. If this doesn't work out, okay, I got to be able to do this. So there is a few different steps, that takes place when you are trying to have work-life balance, but it starts with those three things: sleep health, stress management, and time management. You have to have those three things in order if you're going to have a healthier work-life balance.
I love it. I really do love it. I mean, everything that you're saying, I didn't even realize until recently that you had
Mhm.
this practice. And I think it's so important. So how do you, and working with your clients, how long do you usually think it takes for a person to really get it?
Well, and that's the million-dollar question, right? It really depends on the person. A lot of people know that they need something to change, but they're not really ready to change.
Hmm.
So, they might be very resistant to doing some of the things that they need to do, especially when you're talking about setting boundaries with loved ones. That's very difficult. It's easy to say, like, oh, just say no, blah, blah, blah. But it's hard to say no to your sister and your mom and,
Hmm.
your best friend when it really is imposing upon the time that you have to do things. But after a while, like I said, those life instances that come up that are just kind of nudging you, that lets you know you need to make a change, like, oh, I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm feeling very drowsy. I'm tired. I'm irritable. I'm not able to concentrate. I can't remember things. All of these things are signs of stress. And so after a while, it takes its toll and you have to do something. So the goal is to be preventative and learn some of these techniques initially, when you first notice it, and not wait for it to get to a point where there is very serious consequences.
Right. When you say preventative, I kind of look back on my life journey, and I was a preventative medicine specialist when I was in the military. And then when I got out, I became a nurse, and it was all about preventative care. And one of the things that we don't see, it is
Mhm.
a key point in life, preventative. But we don't. We don't do the preventative things. We just wait till it becomes a crisis, and then we're
Right.
trying to fix it.
Right. We're very reactionary, especially with our mental health and wellness. We don't
Mhm.
take it as seriously as if it were a physical illness that you had. So, we wait for things to go wrong. Then it's like, oh, I need to get some help with this. When the truth is, we should be always thinking about it in order to prevent ourselves from getting to a crisis point.
Right, right. I love that because I'm all about preventative
Mhm,
and then
mhm.
having your type of services. So can you share with us on some success stories and how people is able to pivot? I like that word because my 2020 word is pivoting because
Yeah. I think that success is it's what's the word I'm looking for? There is a spectrum of success, right? And so, I have plenty of people who have done things that they needed to do, in small parts. But overall, I think that any changes that you make that make your life easier, better, healthier, more manageable, those are all success stories.
Mhm.
Right. And so I don't want to say, like, oh, well, this person changed their whole life, so they're successful, because even if you change one thing or take one thing off your list or manage to set boundaries with one person, that is still a success, because all of these things they don't happen just because we want them to. It's something that you really have to work on and daily commitment to that process. So, I mean, I think that anyone who even keeps coming back for sessions, that's a success story, because you haven't given up, right? And we
Mhm.
don't fail until we stop trying. So I feel like everyone who's coming in for assistance, they're all success stories.
I love it. I love it. Now, of course, my intention is for this to be not only within the San Antonio area, because you're located in what area?
In Stone Oak and San Antonio.
Okay. So I
Mhm.
would like for it not only be within that area, but to be global. So do you do walk-ins or they have to call, but are you able to meet with clients virtually?
Yes, I do meet with clients virtually. We
Mm-hmm.
have a platform. It's really easy to log in. You can do it from your phone. You get a little app. And so you could call. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be local, but we don't do walk-ins, right? So there's no, like, just on demand. You
Right.
have to have an appointment.
Uh-huh. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Well, I do apologize. I meant make appointments, but me physically being in your right back corner. But yes.
Right, right, right. Oh yeah, we do. And since the pandemic, we mostly have been doing,
Mm-hmm.
we only go in the office very rarely for certain things, but yeah, mostly virtual. And it hasn't been as bad as you might have thought. Initially, everyone, we were like, oh, how are we going to do, make that connection with
Mm-hmm.
people via the computer. But as we've seen, it can work, and
Right.
everyone has kind of made it work.
Yes, yes. As well as us being able to communicate this way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I love your website because your website has all those different types of tips on it and it's very informational. I love it. So one of the things that I would like to be able to do is to be able to provide your contact information so that people could be able to reach out to you. And as your services, is it covered by insurance too?
It can be. Right now, I'm only taking Blue Cross Blue Shield. When I started off, I was taking all the different insurances, but it became very complicated.
Right.
So now it's just private pay or Blue Cross Blue Shield.
And one of the things that a person, as far as being private pay, is a part of your self-care is putting yourself on a budget so that you can take care of those things. And that's one of the nice things we're going to be doing on our wellness platform is having classes on budgeting, because sometimes financial difficulties is going to cause the anxiety, it's going to cause the stress, it's going to cause the worries, it's going to be all over the place. And being able to take care of your finances is that then that way you can kind of get that off your plate.
Yes, very important. But yeah, and I'm on all the platforms too. Like for Instagram, we post tips on there every day. Well, about 3 times a week. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So if you just go to Balancing Act LMS on any of those platforms, you'll find our tips on there, and we give little like words of the week and ask questions, and people can give feedback and kind of talk to each other if they want to, right? So someone will say like, oh, well, blah, 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 and then someone else can chime in on that. So
wow, okay.
Yeah, it's very cool. So it's at Balancing Act LMS on IG. I think that's where most of the chatter is.
Right, right. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we
No, just that I hope that everyone takes this new year, this new time, this new normal that we have to really look at their lives and what they would like to see happen during this year, where they want to see improvements, because we're all capable of it. Whatever it is, you can be working at it right now. And the time's going to pass anyway. So you might as well work on something.
And I like that because we say the new normal, and a lot of times we say new normal, but life in itself is normal because everything is new each day. I think a lot of times people, because of the pandemic and all the different things that they have to readjust to, they kind of say, well, I don't need this new normal, and they get all upset. But our new normal is every day when we wake up in the morning.
It's a new day.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Kimberly, for being a part of our program. And I would definitely like to say to our audience that we'll have all the contact information for Kimberly and for her office. We'll have her phone number and everything on the link here. And then as well, if you would like some more information, stay tuned to our wellness journey, turning your challenges to triumphs, because I know you can't turn everything around. We all have challenges in life, but guess what? With those challenges, we are able to become triumphant. And we have people in the community like Kimberly and so many others to help you to become triumphant. Please use their services, and also please share our channel with others, subscribe, like us, and then you can also go to our wellness classroom and have a lot of classes that's going to help you to manage life too as well. So again, thank you, Kimberly. You have a wonderful day. Everyone be blessed and just have a gorgeous, wonderful life.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.